Yo, this is celebrity host Chris Cash, aka I'm Elgin. Guys, I go one-on-one with Nate Boyle tonight, live on the hottest podcast on the planet. This is the man that is responsible for inspiring Colin Kaepernick to kneel. Guys, what an interview. This is what I need you guys to do. Right after y'all check out this exclusive interview, in the comment section below, let me know the feedback. Let me know your thoughts and your opinions on the interview, and also make sure, if you haven't already, to subscribe to the YouTube channel, okay? And make sure you click the little bell, the notification bell, so whenever I drop new exclusive interview or just exclusive content period, you guys can be forced to know. Again, thank you very much. Enjoy. Yo, this your boy Chris Cash, aka I'm Elgin. And I want to welcome y'all to the hottest damn podcast on the planet. I want to welcome y'all to Cash Cam Podcast. You guys have been following what's been going on with Colin Kaepernick and the NFL, and Colin taking the stance on kneeling. You guys already know in the headline what's been going on. Well, tonight's guest, to me, holds just as much as importance than hearing about Colin. This guy is reportedly the guy that inspired Colin Kaepernick to kneel in the first place. Once you introduce yourself to everybody that's listening in, because listen, my wife, my kids, nobody listen to me, brother. Who you be?
Hey, man. Thanks for having me on, Chris. I'm Nate Boyer. I'm from California. Grew up there. Grew up a Niners fan. Went on a little later in life and joined the military, became a Green Beret, the Army Special Forces. And then from there, went back to college a little bit later at the University of Texas in Austin, and walked on the football team, even though I'd never played football before in my life. And made the football team, finished my degree up, had a brief stint with the Seattle Seahawks. I had deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan, kind of in the middle of all that stuff. And then, like you said, a couple years ago, when Colin first started demonstrating, protesting during the National Anthem, protesting police brutality and racial injustice, he was sitting on the bench and created quite an uproar. And I wrote him an open letter, kind of just explaining my experiences and my relationship to the anthem, to the flag, patriotism, but also seeking more of an understanding for where he's coming from. And Colin actually reached out to me, and we ended up meeting together. And through our conversation, kind of came to a middle ground where we both felt respected, and also Colin still felt like he was, his demonstration was speaking out towards what he was defending, and he agreed to take a knee instead of sit during the anthem, and that's where the kneeling kind of sprung from. And 2 years later, it's still a very polarizing topic, but it's been interesting to say the least.
Have you experienced any backlash from, veterans, or your peers or people that's not in support of Colin Kaepernick kneeling? Have you experienced any backlash from people saying, "Hey, why you even meet with Colin in the first place, and why are you support him like you do?" What do you say to those people?
Yeah, I've experienced quite a bit, but I think I've experienced a lot more support. And it's not necessarily support from people that agree with me. It's support from people saying, I don't agree, but I respect his rights, and I think that you're handling it in a good way. So I've received a lot of that as well, and I don't want to pretend that I'm only getting negative, feedback. But I have gotten negative feedback, and it's actually, interestingly enough, it's from both sides. It's been people who are on kind of the far left of this discussion as well, who adamantly support Colin, and a lot of them felt like I had no right to kind of interject my opinions on him, and that maybe he should have never met with me, and that he should have continued to sit instead of kneel. And then on the flip side, I've had people, for instance, in the veteran community that are very hurt by it, understandably, because of their feelings and emotions towards the flag and the anthem, that, like you said, say, how could you even sit down with that man? How could you even talk to that guy? And I equate that to where we're misstepping in our country right now, where we got people on both sides of issues that have very strong feelings, which is fine to have, but that aren't even willing to engage and just talk about it, and just have a reasonable discussion. I mean, think about your family, you know, and not everybody in your family, we don't all agree on everything. We disagree on a lot of stuff. Sometimes it's, you know, pretty heavy on religion and politics and all this stuff, but we still sit around the dinner table and we might argue a little bit, but we ultimately, we love each other for the most part, and we're willing to at least engage in that conversation. So why can't we do that at a national level, or just, you know, person to person in our communities? It's really frustrating to see that, because at the end of the day, what we fought for in the military, whether you like it or not, is we fought for the Constitution. And the First Amendment in the Constitution is freedom of speech. And that's what Colin's exercising. So I defend that right way more than I defend the man himself.
I feel just like you do. How can we come together and really tackle the important issue of the divide and racism if nobody want to sit down at a table and, you know what I'm saying, and talk about this stuff? It's like no one know how to have a conversation anymore. Everybody want to be right. Everybody want to argue their points, but no one want to talk to understand. I think we talk to be right. You know what I mean?
We got a serious problem with humility in our country, you know, and like you said, just admitting that, hey, I feel a certain way, but it doesn't mean I have all the answers. Just because I feel strongly that way, it doesn't mean I'm on the right side of history and you're on the wrong side of history necessarily. You know what I'm saying?
A lot of people, especially in the black community, haven't heard of you, Nate. They haven't heard of you. They don't really know your story. I know you have done some interview, been in the media, but it's still a lot of people, I believe, in the black community or minority community, or just people in this whole shebang that haven't heard your name. And this is why I wanted to get you on a podcast tonight, lead to my viewer and listeners, to really introduce you, because do you feel personally that your name or what you standing for should be mentioned among Colin Kaepernick's name when we talk about him as far as the movement and the things that he's doing for to shed a light on on things, on injustice? Do you feel your name, especially in the black community, should be mentioned along with Colin, because you are the guy that met with him and helped inspire him to kneel, or you encourage him to kneel? So do you feel like, hey, when you talk about Colin Kaepernick is making this change and doing this movement, hey, what about me?
No, not really. I mean, I appreciate people recognizing that and understanding that, because I think it's good for Colin as well, for everyone to understand that, look, he's being open-minded too. Open-minded doesn't mean only being liberal, just like patriotism doesn't mean only being conservative.
Right.
So, not necessarily, like I said, I appreciate it, but I don't think people necessarily have to know about me or hear about me. But I think it is helpful for a lot of people that are pretty hard-headed, maybe, and set in their ways to be familiar with that conversation that we had and the story, and where that kneeling really came out of a place of compromise, and like both of us kind of giving in a little bit, which is okay. Like, it's okay. It doesn't mean you're surrendering. It means you're trying to move forward and together. You know what I mean? And like work with people that you don't necessarily agree with, because at the end of the day, even if people don't like the kneeling or the protest of the anthem, I should say protest during the anthem, not of the anthem. Even if they don't like those things, it doesn't mean they don't care about the criminal justice system and that it needs to be better and the mass incarceration rates are too high. It doesn't mean that. You know what I mean? Necessarily. You can say, I'm hurt by the anthem protest, but I also agree with his message, and that's a good thing. You know what I mean? And so there's no reason those two people can't work together just because they disagree on the method of protest. Doesn't mean they can't or shouldn't work together on improving the issue. And I think Colin feels the same way. You know what I'm saying? I think he does. So I wish, I'll be honest, I wish he was a little more outspoken, and I wish he would engage a little more with those people like he did with me in that moment, with people that maybe had a different background and all that. But maybe he is, and we're just not seeing it, because the media is not focusing on it. So there's also that possibility as well.
You're right. You like you said, you wish he probably a little bit more outspoken, and you did say maybe he is, and the media ain't picking up on that. When you met with him, obvious he had to express himself. He had to be more open than you. Exactly. How was the tone during your meeting? Was you guys hostile? Was it respectful? Did you guys agree with each other from the start? I'm sorry.
We're very sensitive to each other's like situations and experiences and backgrounds, and we both understood that, like, hey, I know what I went through. I don't know what you've been through. We both kind of felt that way, and we want to hear from the individual. And I think we both understood that, and I think most people understand that all of our beliefs and feelings and emotions, they're shaped by our personal experiences. You know what I'm saying? If you don't have a personal connection to something, it's hard to feel as emotionally charged about it as when you do. And so we both understood that. And man, at the same day, we had so much more in common than we had different. I mean, we're both from California. We both loved and played football. We understand what a locker room's like, and those experiences we go through on the field where, not everybody's the same, man. We're from all over the place, and we believe different things, different backgrounds, but we can still, fight together. 11 is one on the field for a common goal. And why can't we do that in society? There's no reason. So we had that shared experience, much more shared experiences than different ones.
Yeah, because football is the ultimate team sport, if you ask me. Football totally is. And I know you got time, just a few more questions. My brother, how do you, after high school, how do you work on a fishing boat? Trying to do your thing as a fighter. How did that transpire and you being a walk-on and playing college football when you never ever play organized football a day in your life? I mean, what in the heck? Did you have a dream one day and it was about football and that changed? Let me get on this field and let me do my thing.
It's always my favorite sport. I loved football. I never played it, but I loved it. I played every other sport, and then by the time I was a teenager and I was like, all right, I'm going to try to play football now, I was just so hooked on baseball and basketball, and I was afraid if I played football, I wouldn't be able to make the basketball team or the baseball team, and maybe I wasn't going to be that good at football. All those insecurities, we have as kids, that was one of my insecurities, and I didn't want to fail. I was afraid to fail. So I didn't do it, and it was a big regret. And as I grew, and I worked on the fishing boat, and then I went, to firefighting school, and I eventually joined the military. It wasn't until my military service, I think, where I gained the confidence and understanding that, I have what it takes to do anything. If I just believe in myself and work harder than everybody else, I can make it happen, especially in America. That's what the American dream is. There's no specific one dream. Everybody's got their own. And so I committed, I dedicated myself to that mission. And against all odds, I was like, I'm just going to keep fighting and not quit, and we'll see what happens. And I think more often than not, the people that really commit in that way and are willing to sacrifice quite a bit, things start to go their way, man. People recognize that. People want to work with hard workers and people that are on hell bent and following their dreams. You know what I mean? It's that passion that inspires people, and that's why I got an opportunity to play. It all stemmed from sort of the grit I developed over time growing up, in my early 20s through the challenges that I faced, and then the little victories in between that gave me the confidence to believe I could play football, at the college level, and even for a hot minute at the NFL level.
Let us get in your mind. How special was it getting out there on the field in the NFL game with the Seattle Seahawks? Take us through your mindset. What was you going through?
Man, it was incredible. I mean, it was an emotional day for me, man, just because, I didn't know how long it would last, and it ended up being one game. I only played in one game, but I got an opportunity that week, and to be out there and just feel like I was representing, a lot of people with big dreams that are willing to just go for them, and a lot of people that aren't willing to go for them, that have those big dreams that are scared to. I was representing them too, trying to be an example for them, and so it was. I'll never feel anything like that again. I'll tell you that much. I mean, just the serotonin pumping through my body. That feeling of being on that natural high was just incredible. And I don't know if it's possible to replicate, but I think everybody has the potential to feel that in their lives if they just kind of go for it, just take a shot.
Yeah. Because I'm the reason why, because I think it's very important, my brother, that the listeners and people that's tuning in that haven't really heard of your name but understand the importance you play in this whole saga, is that you was a fighter your whole life. You was a walk on in college. To me, is impressive. You was an undrafted to make it to the NFL. Those things you fought. You went overseas. I mean, you went to the Army. Put your life on the line. 6 years, multiple tours. That's a fighter right there. And I think I just want people to kind of know your background, a little bit, something about you. Like this guy just, came from the sky out of nowhere trying to, get his voice heard. This guy been a fighter his whole life and put his life on the line. So if anybody that I feel should have something to say about this ordeal and we should listen, it should be you. So I appreciate you, sharing your answering that for us and explaining that. Now let me ask you this, brother. Now you know what's going on with Nike and they making him the head the part of their campaign, 30 year anniversary campaign. Do you agree with Nike for making Colin Kaepernick the face of their 30th anniversary campaign? Do you support that?
So I don't even know if agreeing with it matters. I think what Nike's always done, what their brand is, what they're about, is taking risks, taking chances, and being bold. You know what I mean? And obviously and Colin Kaepernick embodies that. You know what I mean? So it totally makes sense. And they knew, man, they calculated risks. They knew there was going to be haters. They knew there was going to be people that forfeited the brand. But for the most part, it was a business decision. They know most of their supporters, people that love their gear, people that follow that brand, whether they agree with Colin Kaepernick's politics or not, I think they agree with what the spirit of what he was doing. You know what I mean? And the spirit of what's that about. And so yeah, it was a big risk to sort of get political in a sense by them, but it's not the first time. You know what I'm saying? Like, they've done stuff like this in the past, and they're always been forward thinking. And like I said, they calculated that risk. They knew that they were going to lose. They were going to lose contracts, and they were going to lose followers and all that. But also, if you look at the numbers and the stats, this campaign is doing 10 times better than anything they've done in years.
Oh, yeah.
So anybody that's in business and savvy in that way, it understands, hey man, this is a good move. It's a smart move.
Yeah, I know a lot of other people like, damn man, why we didn't do what Nike just did,
Yeah. Nike's one of those companies that was just willing to take that risk. And there's a lot of companies that aren't as big as Nike where they've got Nike has a lot and obviously has a lot to lose, but they're such a big brand. There's no way this was ever going to bankrupt them. You know what I mean? There's a chance it wouldn't have done well and would have lost some money, but it's still on brand for who they are, and they're willing to do that because that's what they're about.
Let me ask you something. I know you're saying, bro, Chris, Cash, I'm on your podcast, so you can ask me something. How you get your job? Well, what I'm saying is this, my brother. Okay, put yourself. All right. All right. The people going out burning Nike gear that's against, Nike for supporting Colin. Just focus on that part. If you are one of those people that feel like, well, I'm not going to support Nike, is burning that gear the way to go, or do you feel like it's other ways to make your feelings be known?
I think it's silly, but hey, I think people that did that are videotaping. They're just trying to get people fired up or get likes on their posts or who knows what. If you really care that much, just don't buy the brand. Just don't buy the brand. To do that is just it's just stupid. It's not even ignorant. It's just stupid. I just think, or silly or whatever. You know what I mean? I just think it's a show. You know what I mean? And I don't think that many people did it. I think that just every time somebody did, it was shared a bunch of places because, it's considered crazy or something like that. But anyway, I think And they had a bunch of memes going around too, where it was saying, stuff like, yeah, the only people burning their Nike stuff are the ones who buy the mall walkers. You know what I mean? And that's it. So it's not like they got 15 pairs of Jordans in their closet.
All right. Do you believe that it is a conspiracy, when it comes to the NFL and the owners to not let Colin back in the NFL? Would you say, yeah, Chris Cash, I sort of kind of believe that it's some type of conspiracy and it's race driven, or maybe it's not race driven, maybe it's money driven. They don't want to lose money from their set fans. Do you feel like it's a conspiracy to, not let Colin play football?
I actually don't think it's a conspiracy. I don't think it's I don't even necessarily think it's collusion. I do think it's money driven though. I think these guys are afraid. They're kind of the opposite of Nike, afraid to take that risk, afraid to take that chance because they're afraid they're going to divide their fan base or they're going to lose that. But if you see how successful Nike was by doing this, maybe there's going to be an owner out there soon that's like, maybe there's some value there. I think the biggest issue with it that people are kind of looking past is that, his last, and a lot of people will say, well, that's why he protested, because his play on the field declined the last 2 years. I don't think that's why he protested, but I do think that owners look at it now as like, okay, a typical backup, because he's probably a backup quarterback, at least starting out. You know what I mean? Right now. He's definitely better than most of the backup quarterbacks in the league, but I don't know if he's better than most of the starters in the league. So we'll start out a backup quarterback, but typically what we see in a backup quarterback is a guy that he's got the headset on with the clipboard. He's a signal caller. He's not an outspoken person, typically very quiet. That's the traditional, backup quarterback in the league. And that's not who Colin is and what he's about. And he's had conversations with teams. He turned down an offer from the Broncos, because he didn't want to be a backup. He's like, I want to be a starter. Which of course he does. Like, everybody's fighting for that. Mm-hmm. So at that point, after he turned that down, I don't think any other teams have offered, because in their mind, they're like, well, I think he is a backup right now. And they're worried about that polarization and it being a distraction. And also they're worried about the locker room and it being too much of a circus. I think that there's a lot to that. And I value that opinion. But I also believe there are some owners who are in their own mind are blackballing him, or who in their own mind are like, you know what, no matter what, I'm not going to sign this guy because I disagree with what he stands for or what he kneels for. And that's their right too. I mean, they own the team, but I don't necessarily agree with it, but that's what, I think that there's definitely some owners in the league that have that feeling as well. I just don't think it's across the board. To answer your question, I don't think it's a conspiracy. I personally don't think it's a conspiracy across the board with every owner on the same page. I think the owners have different opinions and feelings about things.
You heard, President Trump, sort of kind of lash out against the NFL of, don't support, we need to take this kneeling and disrespect of kneeling for the, national anthem out. You need to fix this. Do you feel the same as Mr. Trump as, hey, this ain't the. I know you still with Colin, and I know you was the reason why you on here is you helped reason with him. But do you overall share maybe what people that might feel that Trump that, hey, this ain't the place for your protest is other, because I heard an interesting take on it. I heard somebody on another media outlet, they were saying that, well, Colin could make his he could take a stance during the media, when you're in front of the media after games and stuff like that, and that's where all the cameras.
I mean, Doug Baldwin says it best. Doug Baldwin, the receiver for the Seahawks, he says, a protest is meant to be uncomfortable, and that's why Colin picked that time. Also though, it's fair to recognize that Colin, he did say when he first sat during the anthem that I'm not going to stand for a flag that I'm not going to stand for a flag that represents oppression of people of color, right? And so, in a sense, he chose that time during the anthem because of what he feels the flag and the anthem are representing, or what they're not representing from an equality standpoint. And that's those are his feelings and the way that and the reason that he chose that platform. Also, knowing that it would be a very polarizing saying and a very thought-provoking.
And what do you say to the veterans, man, that have fought like you, have put your life on a line for this country? What do you say to the ones that don't agree with Colin? Because I'm sure it's a lot of them that do, and it's a lot of them like you that say, "Hey, man, I might feel this, but I feel like this is right, and this is what we fought for." What about to the ones that just can't seem to have that same mindset as you and others? What would you tell them in private on how to deal with this whole kneeling thing with Colin?
For rights and freedoms, you don't have to agree with it or like it, and most of them don't, I would say. But that's what we still fought for. You know what I mean? And yeah, I mean, we also fought for someone that would burn the American flag right in front of us. We don't have to like it, we don't have to agree with it, but that's what we fought for. And that's what freedom is. That's what the First Amendment says. That's what it's all about.
What's the difference from sitting and kneeling? I know you went to him when you met with Colin Kaepernick, and you say, "Well, brother, then once you do this thing and kneel instead of sitting." Why is it? What's the importance? What is the difference between him sitting?
Well, I'm not the authority on gestures of protest, but for me personally, I think it's more respectful and it's more proactive, and it's alongside your teammates, and I think for me, from an optics standpoint, if somebody's just kind of sitting it out, it looks like they don't really care. Mm-hmm. But when someone's kneeling, they're paying respects and they're showing reverence. And so that's what it looks like. That's the difference to me. And there's a lot of people that disagree with that, but I think there's a lot of people that also agree with that, and say, you know what, that is more powerful. And that's just my opinion, but that's where I was coming from in that discussion.
And brother, will things change when all the smoke clear? This whole thing sort of blow over. Do you feel that Colin Kaepernick kneeling and the whole commotion behind it, whether he was wrong or right, do you feel that it was? I think the whole reason why Colin was doing this for change. Do you think we would see change, something come from this, or you would think this is all for nothing? Nothing would change.
Definitely wasn't all for nothing. I mean, if you look at unarmed people of color that have been killed by police this year, it's way down. It's been going down the last couple of years. So we are seeing change. And I think we need to continue to see that, and people need to be continue to be involved in the voting process. That's something that Colin said a couple of years ago that I don't know if he would say something different now. I would hope so. But he said he wouldn't vote because he doesn't want to vote for an oppressive system. And I said, at the time I was like, well, we have a black president right now. And I think voting shows over the years, people fought for that right to vote in the civil rights movement. You know what I mean? Like gave their lives. So I think that is definitely something that we can also do. But no, it's definitely having an impact, and it will continue to have an impact. The protests, but I don't know if they're ever going to go away as far as the polarization of it. I think there's always going to be people that don't agree with it and are not okay with it, and that's fine. But we are seeing change.
Oh yeah, no doubt. And I see that you said you're a 49er fan. I just wanted to sneak that in. I'm from Chicago. You're a Chicago Bear fan. You know what I'm talking about. How you think the 49ers would do this year, bro?
Start out, we lost. We picked up Jerick McKinnon in the offseason, played running back, and he's hurt in the preseason. So that's a big loss. But Matt Breida, man, that guy steps up. He just keeps stepping up. He's the leading rusher in the NFL through 2 weeks actually.
Wow.
And he had a big 67-yarder this week that kind of secured the win for the Niners. So, he's they definitely, they're fighters, man. They Jimmy G's obviously got a lot of talent. That was a big move there. He hasn't quite had a breakout game. These first two games, he's played okay. He's capable of doing better, and I think he will. But it's only his 10th career start too. Like the guy's, he's still a young player. He's been in the league for 4 or 5 years, but he's still pretty new to being the guy. So they'll get there, man. The defense is tough, dude. They play hard. I got a guy that I played in college, a couple guys I played in college with on the Niners. Starting safety, a guy named Adrian Colbert. So I think he was kind of a late draft pick. He earned a starting job last year, and he's out there, running through people. You got Marquise Goodwin at receiver that played with the Texas, which is one of the most explosive players in the NFL. He's a little banged up right now, but he kind of had a breakout year last year. These guys, they're young and hungry, and obviously Reuben Foster. Like, they got a lot of talent. DeForest Buckner, all these dudes. Like, they'll get there. It's just going to take a little bit of time.
Yeah, and the 49ers getting the backlash from this, man? I think that's a good question. I don't want to pat myself on the back. It might be the worst question in the history of interviewing. But do you feel that any backlash? Did the 49ers catch any shade with this whole Colin? Because this was the last team he was with. Do you think is a dark cloud over the 49ers, or you think no? Let me shut up. You get my question?
I think, I don't think there's a black shot. I mean, he opted out of his contract on his own. Like, it's not like they cut him. So,
right.
No, I don't think so at all. And actually, the owner of the Niners, his name is escaping me right now, but he's been one of these people, one of the few owners that has kind of supported Colin, his right to do what he's doing, and kind of been vocal on that end. So I don't think they've had a bunch of negative backlash, no.
And this is just a side note, brother, before we get out. I know you, but I'm going to hang up the phone on you. Listen, you also did your thing. You tried to become an actor early on in your life, too. With this whole Colin situation, I'm pretty sure this is going to make it into the big screen. It's going to make it into the movies. I just know years down the line, or sooner than I think, this is definitely going to be a movie. Since you was doing your thing, in the past, trying to be an actor, do you feel like this will become a movie, this whole situation? And do you feel like maybe you'll play yourself? Hey, I don't need you, Brad Pitt. You understand me? I don't need you. I'll play myself, damn it. Do you feel like this will be a movie soon?
Yeah, I think one day this story will be, at least a documentary. You know what I mean? It'll be covered pretty heavily, I think. And, I'm sure that, I'm sure people have already been talking to Colin about doing a story about his, this whole situation in his life. So. I think one day that might happen.
You get the last word. What you want to say to everybody, brother?
From Michael Bennett, the guy I played with in Seattle. He's on the Falcons now. That what's most important here is we just need to be good people. Just be a good person to everybody. You know what I mean? Treat everybody with respect. Be nice, be open-minded, listen, and be bigger than those headlines that get you fired up and angry, and you just want to react. Be bigger than that. Be bigger than the things that, the president says that get you all fired up and angry. Like, understand, be smarter. You know what I mean? And just take everything with a grain of salt, slow it down a little bit, and just be a good person. I mean, we don't choose what happens to us in our lives, and we don't choose what gets reported on and what's thrown in our face all the time. We always choose how we react. We can always take a little time and patience and react in a different way. And you can still be an activist. You can still make change and still be a powerful person with a smile on your face. You know what I mean? So, that's all I want to encourage.
Today, before we get out of here, what are you doing today? What do your life consists of, man? I
have a nonprofit called Merging Vets and Players. We're bringing together former professional athletes and combat veterans and helping them find purpose once they're done playing their sport or serving their country. And it's been really powerful, man, because what we did on the field versus on the battlefield are very different, but the locker rooms are the same. And a lot of the struggles with transitioning back to quote unquote civilian life, that's very similar, and so there's that mutual respect between the two groups. And it's been very powerful to see these guys grow and get back and serve again in different ways in the communities, and just develop that bond and brotherhood that they're missing, the camaraderie that they lose when the uniform comes off.
Oh yeah, and tell everybody where they can stay up to date with you. Your social sites, your website, everything you want people to definitely stay in tune with you. Just the time to tell everybody.
NateBoyer.com and at NateBoyer37 is where I am on Twitter and Instagram.
Remember, we not them.